So, with the Game Awards fast approaching, I believe they're tomorrow. I just thought I'd make a quick video recapping all the reasons why the Game Awards suck. We know they suck. We have the same discussions every year. Everybody seems to be in agreement, but still they go on. So, I just thought I'd make a video that summarizes the points real quickly. So, the first point is the Game Awards are a commercial event before they are an awards ceremony. And even the five other points I'm going to bring up right now, they can all really be traced back to this. So, that's basically the main issue. Two, they pretend to be something that they know they aren't. Three, despite their flaws, they continue to represent the video game industry. Four, they are selective in how much respect they pay to winners and nominees. Five, they demonstrate a complete disregard for a fair and balanced process. And six, their award categories are poorly considered. So I'll go through all of them in detail now, but that's just the brief summary. So first of all, the Game Awards are a commercial event before they are an awards ceremony. So this is sort of the big problem. If you compare the Game Awards to other awards ceremonies, say like the Golden Globes or the Oscars, which they often get compared to, those ceremonies, or at least the Oscars, I'm not actually sure how the Golden Globes is one, so I don't want to talk about it. But the Oscars is run by the Academy of Film, or Film and Television, or movie, Academy of Motion Picture Arts and Entertainments, something like that, which is an industry body, which is a collective of people working within the industry and who have worked within the industry who pay to be part of this program, and the Academy is funded by them. So the Oscars aren't beholden to advertisers the same way that the Game Awards are. They do still run ads, don't get me wrong. Like the Academy Awards, the Oscars, they make a lot of money off ads, but people pay attention to it, and they're prestigious because they're an awards ceremony first, and they're able to focus more on the awards because they aren't beholden to advertisers completely. The awards ceremony would still probably run, but it might not get as much attention if it weren't for the advertisers, but it would still run. There would still be an awards ceremony. The Game Awards do not operate like that. They are entirely funded by commercials. And, you know, with Jeff Keighley announcing that sometimes it costs people like $400,000, or I don't even remember the numbers, but it's a lot of money to get your game or product previewed on the Game Awards. And so that is where they make the majority of their money. And so they're beholden to those advertisers, and those advertisers, as a result, have to be the priority. So they can't focus as much on the awards, which makes it a bit of a piss take. And everybody, we all watch them for the commercials nowadays, and we still kind of get angry when they don't focus as much on the awards as we think they should. But, you know, they're in the sort of position where they can't really do that. Second, they pretend to be something they know they aren't. So a lot of people get mad at the Game Awards because they claim to be the Oscars of gaming. I can't actually find any evidence that the Game Awards themselves have ever proclaimed themselves that. I think Jeff Keighley is even, I might be wrong here, but I'm pretty sure he has at some point explicitly stated that he doesn't like the comparison, although that may be because he felt that the Game Awards were better than the Oscars, which is a theme that's come up a few times in some of their award ceremonies. Um, but despite, you know, not ever outwardly claiming themselves as such, like they have developed that reputation in large part because uh, they have the biggest viewership of any award show in video games, and also because when news teams report on them, when the Game Awards, you know, try to get press out there, make press releases, and go to like mainstream news sources for this sort of thing, it's kind of, it is the most obvious way to get people who don't care about video games to care about a news story on the Game Awards. If I write an article about the Game Awards and I refer to them as the Oscars of gaming, it's really easy hook. It's a way to get people in. People know what the Oscars are. The Game Awards actually are more similar to the Golden Globes. So the way that the Oscars work is the people who vote on them are like prestigious members of the Academy of Film and Motion Picture Sciences, Arts and Sciences. And so those esteemed, you know, members of the industry, it's the industry voting on itself, right? It's people who create reflecting on the current state of the discipline. The Game Awards are a panel of journalists, video game journalists from all over the world, which is kind of unique. Like no other, there's not really a film awards show that is voted on by journalists from all over the world, right? So the Golden Globes are probably the most similar thing, or at least the most similar thing with the highest profile. The Golden Globes are voted on by European critics of film and television, uh, but journalists, critical outlets like that. That's what they're voted on, not by the industry itself. The actual closest thing to the Oscars for video games is the DICE Awards, or formerly known as the Interactive Achievement Awards, uh, and they happen every year in Las Vegas in around like February or March. It's not as if the Game Awards uh, don't have a right to exist or don't have a right to take themselves seriously. There are plenty of prestigious award shows out there that are voted on by uh, journalists. I don't think like that in and of itself is a bad thing, but to describe them as the Oscars of gaming is very misleading. But they've established themselves as having that reputation due to the things I mentioned before. Journalists reporting on them as such. Um, and that's sort of been outside of their control, but it does work to their benefit because it gets more eyes on them and it makes them seem like the most prestigious award show. So point number 3 was, despite their flaws, they continue to represent the game development industry. This is like a big one, because they are the biggest show in town. Like they get the most eyeballs on them, and because they have like in the zeitgeist, they're the award show most people know about. People assume that they are the most prestigious award show in gaming, and so the awards seem to be a representation of like what is the best that the gaming world has to offer. And beyond who just gets those awards, the ceremony itself represents how seriously the industry takes itself. It is a representation of the industry to people who are outside it, just looking in. Someone Googles what won game of the year, like someone would Google what wins best picture, and they see some celebrity like Ben Affleck who's promoting a movie award people he's never met before and doesn't know who they are an award for a game that he's never played. Like that sort of thing looks bad on the video game industry. It looks like they're still trying to ape their bigger brothers in other artistic mediums, when the reality is that video games have been pretty well established as like their own art form that can take themselves seriously for a long time. And so the Game Awards just kind of like they are in a position to represent the industry from a PR perspective to people outside the industry, and they do a really bad. They make the game industry look very immature. And I know that Jeff Keighley doesn't like this, but again, it's just sort of a result of the first point that they aren't self-sufficient. They have to rely on commercial advertisement to occur. It's just a natural result of that they kind of have to bend the knee at certain points, and it makes the industry look bad. Number 4, they are selective in how much respect they pay to winners and nominees. So people have an issue with like all award ceremonies that run commercials, in the idea that, why do some awards get given out in the pre-show or during ad breaks, or they're just read off in a little slide? That's not unique to the Game Awards. What I will say is unique to the Game Awards is there are a select few developers, very few, that get a ton of respect and reverence from the award ceremony itself. In particular, like this can be most easily seen, this is probably who you're thinking of, with Hideo Kojima. Hideo Kojima got this huge grand entrance and all this time, it's like 20 minutes or something, to talk about what he's been doing, to show the trailer for Death Stranding 2 recently. And meanwhile, other developers who are coming out there who've made incredible games just don't get the same reverence. They don't get the same treatment. They don't get the same entrance. They don't get the same build up. It seems like, I'm not saying this is the case, of course, Jeff. I have nothing but respect for Jeff Keighley, but it paints the picture that Jeff and his friends, like this is meant to elevate their status. And outside of that, like it's meant to make money, and the other developers like we don't care what happens to them. That is the way that it comes off. And so that's, I think, the more unique problem to the Game Awards when it comes to how much respect they pay to their winners and nominees. It's not so much, that some awards happen during commercial or just get read off a sheet. Like, that happens in all commercial award shows. Yeah, it's the other stuff that really drives the final nail in the coffin, as it were. Number 5, they demonstrate a complete disregard for a fair and balanced process. So this is my personal, so the thing that is probably the most annoying and frustrating to me personally, as someone who cares about award shows, isn't any of the commercial stuff. It's the fact that the logistics of the Game Awards doesn't make any sense. For the past few years, I don't actually know how long this has been going on, but I first observed it with Miles Morales, when Spider-Man Miles Morales came out, which was 2020, 2021, something like that. It was nominated for awards, but it came out a year. Sorry, not even a year. It was like 3 days or a week before the contention period for the awards ceremony had ended. So if you don't know how awards ceremonies work, there is a contention period. Usually, it's for stuff like the Oscars. It's the calendar year that starts January 1st and ends December 31st. Of that is the time where if a movie comes out in that period, it can be nominated for an Oscar for the next Oscars. The Game Awards work slightly differently. They take place in December, and that is because they are a commercial property and they are trying to get people excited for games, so that they can buy games in time for Christmas. It just happens that this is like the perfect time in the schedule where video game publishers are ready to announce things, but they don't have like a big central platform, or they didn't before have a big central platform on which to announce those things. So they take place in December for purely commercial reasons. But this also means that the contention period starts in like late November and ends late November the next year, which is kind of weird. Like, it doesn't feel right when a game like Super Smash Brothers Ultimate, which came out like December 7th or December 18th, something like that, wasn't in 2018, wasn't nominated for the Game of the Year awards in 2018. It was nominated in 2019. With a bunch of games that came out the year after it, and it just felt weird. And often games that release in that late period don't get the same look in. People forget about them. They often miss nomination for that reason. It just doesn't feel current or relevant enough, and it doesn't gel with how we think about time. It's kind of funny because it's all sort of made up, but that doesn't gel with the way that we think about time and when these entities come out. That alone is like a little annoying. But what really bothers me is like, so as a contrast with the Oscars, everything from 2024 that was released on a day that ends with 2024 is in contention for the Oscars that happen in 2025, and those Oscars don't happen until February, March, or whatever. And so that gives people a lot of time to the people who are voting on these movies, a lot of time to actually watch the movies and decide on their vote. Like, it makes sense that it takes that long, because you want the people to be able to have given all of these movies a fair shot. The Game Awards, their contention period ends in November, and then like a week later or 2 weeks later, that's when the voting happens. And it's just completely unfeasible that the people who are voting on these games have enough time to play all of them. Games take so much longer to get through than movies, and yet we have dramatically less time to consider these games. And the other problem is that this is the real bad part. The nominees get announced a week before the contention period ends. This keeps happening, where they will announce their nominees because they want to get people excited for the Game Awards a week before the contention period is even over. So there's games that haven't even released yet that could be nominated or don't get nominated even though they should be, just purely based on that. Like, I would have so much more respect for the Game Awards if they just if like it already bothers me that that it ends mid-November, but I wish they would bring it earlier into the year just so that it made some semblance of sense that that the critics could have time to play these games. But if the games aren't even released before the contention period is over, uh, or before the nominees are announced, like that is bizarre. It is so upsetting to me. And yeah, anyway, so that is really the thing that bothers me the most about the Game Awards. And number six, the awards categories are poorly considered. So this was a big deal when Sifu got nominated for Fighting Game of the Year. And I have a whole theory about how the video game categories should be broken down. But essentially, uh, they only have so much time, and video game genres themselves are often like poor ways of comparing games. Like, Portal is technically a first person shooter, but to put it in the same subcategory as Call of Duty is it doesn't relate to it doesn't accurately represent the reasons that we play those games or find them laudable. um, they both video game genres are largely defined by mechanics, and so a first person shooter, Portal does require accuracy and precision with your aiming of portals and stuff. But this we know on an instinctual level that that's not actually why we play it. And of course, that's not the best example because people would probably predominantly refer to Portal as a puzzle game, which is what it is. Um, but this happens with games like Sifu that are combat focused fighting games, but everybody thinks it's bizarre that that ends up in the same category as something like Street Fighter. Um, and so this is really like a problem with video game genres as a whole, and I don't want to get into all of that, even though I have a whole thing written about it. Yeah, just know that video game genres often do a really poor job of describing why we play those games, and so you'll find issues like that up and down the cast. Yeah, and of course, all of those things, that's really the end of it. All of those things are things you will probably know if you've ever watched the Game Awards. I don't think this is news to anybody, but I see, when I see every year people complaining about the same things, I feel like something like this is probably something that people want to have access to. So that's all. Thank you.